Everybody, it's Emily at Arc Schooling, and today I'm going to be talking about everything I read in the month of July. Once again, I did not film any individual book reviews, so I have to do all of this from memory, which is not my favorite. So bear with me. So in July, I read 12 books. Let me give you my quick breakdown. So I read 12 books. 7 of them were audiobooks. 2 of them were ebooks. 7 are books that I own. 2 were ARCs. 5 books were rated 5 stars. I didn't have any DNFs this month, which is impressive because this felt very much like a month in which I would have had DNFs. I just didn't read as much. I had 1 reread. 3 of the books I read were new releases. 2 of them were books either written by or including BIPOC characters. I had 3 books. Yeah, I had 3 books that were by LGBTQ plus authors and or had characters. Yeah, 2 of the books were middle grade and or YA. 1 nonfiction, and I hauled 10 books. Okay. So let's just talk about what I read. So I kicked off the month with our book club selection from June, which was Somewhere Beyond the Sea by T.J. Klune. This is my 3rd T.J. Klune book. I rated this 5 stars. I have now rated 3 of his books 5 stars, so T.J. Klune can now qualify as a favorite author. So this is the sequel to The House on the Cerulean Sea, and we're following the same cast of characters with a few new additions. And I didn't like this as much as House on the Cerulean Sea. I think I liked that story better. I also thought the audiobook was a little bit weird. I didn't enjoy the narrator very much, but I still enjoyed my time with these characters. I still love them. I love the banter between the kids, and one of the new additions, David, was really fun. And I really enjoyed the characters more than I did the plot. Then I read What Kind of Paradise by Janelle Brown. This was an ARC, and I got this ARC because I was really intrigued by the premise. This is a thriller, which I should know better. I really should know better by now. I know myself. I know I don't like thrillers, but I'm always pulled in by a synopsis. It sounded really good on paper. This is a story about a girl whose father raises her off-grid, and she's homeschooled and kind of in seclusion, and she believes certain things. He's very anti-technology, considers himself a Luddite. This is set in the 90s, and they live in the backwoods of Montana, and she starts to learn about who she really is and who her father really is. And the story is about her kind of unraveling the lies he's told her about her life, and her coming to terms with that. And I don't want to give much more than that away, because telling you more than that would be giving you spoilers, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone who might actually enjoy this book. I thought it was an interesting premise, but the execution wasn't as good as I would have hoped. I did not love the characters. The main character did some things that I thought were just really stupid, even for someone as naive as her. I thought some of her decision making was absurd. I didn't love this one, and I gave it 3 stars. Then I read Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas. This was my vampire selection because I pulled vampires as my prompt out of my TBR jar, so I was very excited to finally get to this. I think if I read this, even if I read it right now, I think I would have loved it even more. I read this at the beginning of the month when I was still very much in a really bad brain fog. Like, I had the worst brain fog I've ever dealt with because of perimenopause and a change in my hormones that I was taking, my HRT, and it just really messed me up. And I could not do anything. And even when I could, it was like doing it through a fog, basically. So I think I would have enjoyed this more another time. But even so, I still gave it 5 stars because it was very good. This is my second Isabel Canias book. She has a new book out this month. And I'm hoping that I also give that 5 stars because then I can call her a favorite author. But this was excellent. If you love a gothic setting, if you love historical horror, you will like this. But I want to set you up to like it, though. While I'm going to call it horror, it isn't like scary. If you're expecting something really dark and twisted and you will be disappointed. There are vampires in this, but that's not what the story is about. So this is about Nena and Nestor, who were in love with each other. They've known each other their whole lives. And when she gets attacked by vampires, and this all happens at the very beginning of the book, when she gets attacked by vampires, he thinks she's dead, and he runs away out of despair for losing his love. But then he will be coming back into this area, and he'll find out that actually she survived, and she believes he abandoned her. And now they're like forced to come back together again, and she's angry at him, rightfully so, because she believes that he just up and abandoned her. He is amazed at his good fortune and is still in love with her and like has to win her back now. This is really more of a romance than anything else, which is why I'm so surprised that I loved it as much as I did, because generally speaking, I don't enjoy romance as the main plot. Like, I like when there's romance in a story about other things, but I don't want a story where the entire plot is just the romance. But this was so interesting because of the setting. This is like 1846, so we're like seeing them dealing with America attacking them and the beginnings of the war between America and Mexico. So we're seeing that stuff happening. The whole idea of these vampires is so interesting because in this book, the vampires are really not the villains. It's the Americans, the Yankees, that are seen as the villains in this story. And I think what she did with the vampires in here was really clever. So I thought this was excellent. I just wish I was not in such a weird headspace when I read it, because I think I would have been so much more in love with the story. I read The Fountains of Silence by Ruta Sepetys. This was my 5-star prediction from June that I didn't get to, so I read it at the beginning of July. And I did, in fact, give this 5 stars, but again, in a weird brain place, and I feel like while I really enjoyed it, it didn't hit as hard as I thought it should. So this is a story about the Spanish Civil War and how it affected the people of Spain, and we're following these characters whose lives have been destroyed by the fascist ruler of Spain, and like what happened to them during this time, and some of the ugly things that happened, specifically with the way they would steal babies from the people that were not on the side of the government and then give them to families that they deemed more acceptable. That on its own is horrific. But like the story itself is about all these different characters and how they are reacting to this government, how it is affecting their lives, how they are kind of forced to pretend that none of this is happening and or like dealing with the consequences of it. It was really interesting. This is a time period and topic that I know absolutely nothing about. And so I was fascinated. I want to read more. I want to learn more about it, because their whole like, we'll just forget about it. We'll pretend it never happened and nobody will ever talk about it is amazing. Like, what? That is insane. Like, how do you process trauma if you have to just let it go? Like, that seems wild to me. So I'm definitely curious to learn more. I did enjoy this, and I did give it 5 stars, but it's not my favorite Rudis of Petties. I'm still going to say Between Shades of Grey, I think, is her best work. And, oh, and I Must Betray You. Those 2 books, I think, are her best work. I would put this third. I really liked it. It didn't hit as hard as those 2 books. I read We All Rot Eventually by Mia Ballard. This was an ebook I got through Kindle Unlimited. I was curious about it because it came up as a recommendation for a bunch of different books about like female rage. And because I loved Mayfly so much, I was like, I want another book like that. So let's give this a go, since I can read it from Kindle Unlimited. I think it's also a novella, so it was only like 120 pages or something. This was not for me. I did not enjoy this. This is a book about fame and the lengths that people will go to become famous. The main character in this is just horrific. She's a terrible person, and at no point in this story did I find her interesting enough to be doing the things that she was doing and to be compelled by what she was doing. Like, I'm all for female rage, but I want the person with the rage to have some meaning to it. I want there to be some reason, and her reason in this book is I want to be famous. Which, for me, is not enough of a reason. I don't see why or how she was able to pull off the things she did. So, to me, it was not a very believable story, but also it just was really kind of tedious to read. I almost DNF'd it at one point, but I was just like, it's short. I can power through. So I powered through. And I gave this a 2. I would not recommend it. It was not something that I enjoyed reading. And it just didn't work for me. Then my second vampire book I read this month was Night's Edge by Liz Caron. This was interesting because I'm always looking for a vampire story that does something different, but like still maintains the ideas of like, what is a vampire? This is a story where vampirism is seen as a pandemic. Like, people become sick with it, and then they just have to like learn to live. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting is the way that people were using the internet to help each other. It felt very realistic, and like, okay, well, now that I have this, let me go talk to other people in a message group that also has this, so we can kind of work together to figure out what we should do. And so I thought that aspect of it was really interesting. Now, this is really a book about mother-daughter relationships, especially toxic mother-daughter relationships. We're reading this at the beginning of the book when, I don't remember anyone's name. Mia, I think? Yeah. Mia is in her 20s, and she's still dealing with her mom. Her mother was turned when she was 10, I think, and so she has to grow up very fast because her mother, who was already kind of an immature person, is now an immature person with vampirism. And so she has to deal with this and take care of her mother when she's still a kid herself, and she spends her childhood raising her mother. And so the story is really about like seeing how she's dealing with that now in her 20s, but also bouncing around in time. So like you're jumping back and forth from her in her 20s, going back to her as a child and dealing with this happening to her mother, and her responsibility of caring for her mother and what they have to do to survive together and stay together as a family. And it was really interesting, but I can't say that I enjoyed the story. Like, the toxic mother-daughter relationship stuff was done well. I thought the vampirism concept as a pandemic was really clever, and it was done in an interesting way. But for me, this was just not as compelling as I had hoped it would be, and I gave it 3.5 stars. I was working on the World War II unit update for Build Your Library, and I added a couple of new books. One I'd already read, but these, actually 2 of them I'd already read, but one of them I wanted to read and see if it would be a good fit. And so the book I read and added, that was a reread, is I Will Protect You, A True Story of Twins Who Survived Auschwitz. This is written by Eva Moses-Kor with Danica Davidson. This is a story about twins who were taken into Auschwitz, and they were experimented on by Dr. Mengele. And the story is her life, like, just before their family ended up in concentration camps through her adult life. And what I like about this is that it does something that I find really compelling, in that she explains everything about, like, what happened to her family, what happened after, and how she came to terms with it. And I think that's really important, because I think a lot of the time when kids learn about the Holocaust, they might learn about concentration camps. They might read a book about, like, maybe they read Anne Frank, or maybe they read one book and they know that, like, people went to camps and then the war ended, and then if they survived the camps, then they were free. And I think it's important to talk about the trauma that people had to live with and, like, what it did to them. And she talks a lot about how she decided one day that her anger was making her unwell, and she wanted to let go of it. And so she decided to forgive, and how that affected her going forward. She's still mad. She still has this, like, deep sadness about what happened to her sister and her parents. But she's also like, I don't want to let that rule my life anymore. So I find that really compelling, because not everybody has the ability to do that. This is for children. She does have books that she's written for adults. But I find her story really compelling. And I think she does a very good job of explaining everything that happened to her without getting too into the weeds of, like, the horrors of it, but she does it in such an interesting way that, like, it's still upsetting, but it is also, like, readable for children, if that makes sense. But I really loved this book, and I gave it 5 stars. And it was in my reread this month. Then I read Soul Lanterns. This is by Shah Kuzki. I'd had this on my shelves for a while, and I just hadn't gotten to it yet, but I was really curious about it. This is a story about the aftermath of the bombing of Hiroshima. And in this book, we're following people who are living, like, 25 years later. And you're following a character who is learning about what happened during the war, and, like, how the bombing affected different people. They have a festival that they celebrate every year where they release these soul lanterns, on the day of the bombing, and in remembrance of the people that they lost. And, like, people are talking and telling their stories about who they lost, or what happened to them, or their memories of that event. And I think it's done in such an interesting way, because it's for kids. I think it does something really interesting, and where, like, it's awful. You're reading about this horrific event and this terrible thing that happened, but because it's 25 years later, and because we're following characters who survived it, and they're remembering different things about it, I think it's a little bit less depressing. There is an element of hope to the story because, and it's the same thing for I Will Protect You. There's an element of hope in these books, I think is so necessary. When you're teaching kids about something this awful, there needs to be an element of hope. Like, they need that to be able to, like, not just comprehend what they're reading, but to be able to, like, see that humanity can go on. So I thought both of these were excellent. I gave them both 5 stars. I needed a book with technology on the cover, did not want to read the ones I had in my stack. So I got the audiobook for All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is the first of the Murderbot books. I had tried to read this once before and DNF'd it because I just, like, didn't get it. I've heard so many people rave about this series, but for whatever reason, it just, like, I couldn't connect with it. And that was years ago. Then the TV series came out, and I was like, you know what, maybe I'll like it better if I can watch it instead of read it. So we watched Murderbot, and I loved it. I was like, oh, this is great. Why didn't I like this? Like, this is exactly the kind of thing I should like. So I decided I wanted to give the book another chance. And I'm glad that I did, because I liked it a lot better this time, probably because of the TV show and because I was able to, like, visualize everything better. And I do think I will continue the series. I don't even know how many there are. But I much preferred my experience the second time. So this, I don't even know how to explain it to you. Murderbot is about this future where we have, like, AI technology robot protectors. Like, they're like guards. They are like a security system that you can, like, have them, like, come with you on different excursions and trips or whatever, and they'll protect you. And this one is, like, sentient, and he loves TV and, like, doesn't really like humans that much, but is compelled by these humans that he's stuck with. And, like, it's a really interesting concept, and, like, the TV show is so fun. Oh my god. Like, Alexander Skarsgård plays the Murderbot, and he has this, like, magical ability to somehow, like, it's his eyes. He has, like, this ability to be so innocent and, like a puppy. I don't know how he does it, because he's a large man, like, and he can be very intimidating, but also he can, like, flip a switch and be like this innocent lost puppy. I don't know. It's a quality not many large men like that could have, but he does it so well, and I think that makes the character so much more compelling. Anyway, I enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Before We Were Yours by Lisa Wingate. This was my 5-star prediction for July. And I'm going to say it again. If I read this in a different month, like if I read this now, I think it might affect me more now that my brain is feeling better. But I was still kind of in a weird fog. I did give this 5 stars. So yes, it is a 5-star for me. But it didn't hit me the way I thought it would. Like, I didn't cry. Nothing I read this month made me cry, which is disappointing because I feel like it should have. Like, the story itself is sad, and the characters are all very interesting, compelling people, but I just didn't feel anything while I was reading it, which is very disappointing because, and it's a me problem. It's not the book, because it's well written, well researched. Like, the story was really, really good, and it was done really well. I'm just, like, in a weird place, but I did really like it. This is a story about, we're following 2 different characters, and we're in 2 different time periods. So we have modern day, where we're following a woman who is trying to understand her grandmother, and find out and solve a mystery about her. Her grandmother is, I think, she has dementia or something, and she's starting to like not be able to remember things. But she's mentioned something that she's like, well, I don't know what that is. I've never heard of that before. And so she's trying to understand what it is her grandmother is remembering. And she's digging up all this like stuff about the past. And then we're also following another character named Rill, who is living in the 1930s when this happened. So this is a story about this woman who was stealing children to sell as orphans. Like, she was taking them from their families and claiming that their parents signed papers to give them up to the state, or that their parents died or whatever, but she was stealing them. And we're following characters who were taken from their family and put into this home to be given up for adoption and sold to the highest bidder. And it was so horrific to read about and so upsetting. And the characters were all so vividly written. Like, I felt like they were real people. I did find the stuff where we're following Rill to be a little bit more interesting than the parts where we're in present day and she's digging up family history, which I do find compelling. I do like stories about people researching their family and trying to uncover secrets. That is something I will always enjoy, but I just felt like that part of the story was just fine. Like, if I was only reading that, that would have gotten like a 3.5. But the stuff about Rill and her siblings and trying her best to hold it together and find a way to escape and get back to her parents, that part was 5 stars, solid 5 stars for me. I really enjoyed that part of the story the most. Is this a topic I didn't really know anything about? I thought it was all done very well. And I gave it 5 stars, but it did not make me cry, which I really thought it would. Then I read Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is her newest book. It literally just came out. I think this came out in June. I loved this. This is probably my favorite book I read this month. This is a story about women who were training to be astronauts. And we're following one particular woman on her journey to become an astronaut, go to space, and it's set in the 80s. And so it's like the space race, but like in the 1980s when they're starting to let women join. And she's one of the first women to be able to train to become an astronaut. I loved the TV show For All Mankind. It's on Apple TV. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's so good. It's like 4 seasons and it covers just like, I think like 40 years or something, 50 years. Quite a large span of time. But it's like an alternate history. So like, what if Russia made it to the moon first? How would that have changed the trajectory of the space program in America? So well done. Anyway, this was very much like that. Like, there was a lot of like overlap in this book to what I know from that show. Like, I learned so much about NASA and space travel and all of that stuff from watching For All Mankind. And I've also read other books about the space race and stuff, so like I know enough to be able to follow what's happening in this. Like, I'm not smart enough to like follow the science of it, but like I understand what's going on. This is so good. Oh my god. Like, again, did not cry. I don't think I'm capable right now. I think they're like, I'm too emotionally just a mess to be able to like get into a story enough to cry, which is just kind of killing me right now because I really love when a book can affect me like that. I didn't cry, but I know other people did. And I know like under normal conditions I would have. But this is a beautiful story about first love and being queer in a time and place where you can't come out and you have to be hidden because you could risk losing everything you've worked for. This is about family, about found family, about the relationships we build and the community we build for ourselves. Oh my God, it was so good. So freaking good. I loved this a lot. This is a 5-star read. Highly recommend. I read The Freedom Seeker by Ruchira Gupta. This was the last book I read during the month of July. It's middle grade. This comes out the beginning of August, and I really wanted to make it happen before then because I felt like this was probably going to be one of my favorite middle grade reads, and I was right. This is a story about immigration, and specifically it's about a girl who's living in India with her parents. They are in a interfaith family. So I think her mother is Muslim and her father is Hindu and Sikh. And that is seen as a bad thing in India. There's a new political group coming to power and they want families to be only Hindu. So they don't like Muslims, but they also really don't like interfaith families, and they keep attacking them. So they're in danger. And her family wants to try to escape to America, and they try to go the legal way, and they can't get visas. So the father decides, okay, well, I'm going to go into America illegally and get asylum there. And then once I'm there, you guys can follow me and we'll be safe. And it doesn't work out that way. And so this is a story about the process of getting into America when you have to escape the bad situation that your family is in. Like, why do people want to come to America? And why is it so hard for them to do that? What does it mean to do it legally? What does it mean to do it illegally? And how are these people treated once they make it into America? And I think this answers a lot of questions that kids might have about all of this. Like, I know that they probably hear things like illegal immigrants and asylum seekers and all of that on the news all the time, but they don't necessarily know what it means. And I think this book does an excellent job of explaining what all of that means, but doing it in a way that they can, like, see themselves in Simi, the main character. She is just an average girl. She's ordinary. Like, she's not like this hero or anything, but she's just a regular kid who is the captain of her hockey team. She plays field hockey, and she loves the sport, and she loves being a leader to her friends and trying to find common ground with them even when they are cruel to her. And she is really smart, and like when she's in the detention centers in America and she's asking these questions of these people who are not giving her good answers, and she is determined to like find a way to like get what she needs to do done and push these people to help her. I don't know, I thought it was really well done, really well written, very interesting story with great characters, and you're really rooting for Simi and her family. And I think kids are going to really like this book. I think it's going to be really, really helpful. I might write a lip bite for it because I think it's a really important read, especially right now. And it's done in a really, like, hopeful way. Like, I think that a lot of the times books like this, because they're so hard-hitting, tend to be really, really freaking sad. And what I loved about this was that while there are some really sad moments, there's also a lot of hope in the story. And I think that's really important. So anyway, that's everything I read in July. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I'm going to say Atmosphere was my absolute favorite read, but I read some good stuff. Even if it was a rough reading month for me, I feel like I still read some really good stuff. But I'm glad my brain fog has started to subside, and I'm starting to feel like myself again, so I'm excited to see what I pick up this month and read. So let me know down in the comments, have we read any of the same books? I'd love to talk about them. What was your favorite book of July? I would love to know. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Happy reading. Bye!